ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We are on our journey of Kathopanishad. Today we will start Valli 2 of chapter 1. From here the journey of a spiritual path begins. So this is going to be very fascinating part now onwards. We already saw that in the previous mantras, Yamraj could not tempt Nachiketa. He offered him all the temptations of the world, but Nachiketa disappointed him. He did not accept any of them. And then now Yamraj is giving him his third, boon. The boon which he asked, that what is there a soul after death? If there is one, what happens to it after death? So that is the issue which will be covered in the following mantras. Now let us take the mantra number 1 of Valli 2. Anya cheyo anya duvet dutev preyaste ubhe nanarthe purusam sinit तयो श्रेय आदांतस्य साधु भवति हीयते अयथार्थ उप्रयो व्रणीत. Now it says that there are two paths in life. One can take two paths in life. The first path is the path of pleasant experiences. That is called prayer. The other path is the path of good deeds. That is the path of Kalyan. That is the path of liberation, total liberation. So, in different Upanishads, different terminology has been used for these two paths. Here the words which have been used are prayer and Shreya. Now we will understand these words in detail. For example, in Mundak Upanishad, they have used the word paravidya and aparavidya. In Isavasya Upanishad, the words have been used are vidya and avidya. So different terminology has been used, but the terminology used here is very fascinating. It is more practical. It is easier to understand for each one of us. Prayer and Shreya. Now, what is prayer? Prayer is basically a tendency of being dependent on others. Parasit. Parasit hona. That is prayer. Now, how it is dependent on others? Pleasant experiences. How do you get pleasant experiences? For example, you buy a new house and people come and praise you. Oh, this is a wonderful house. You designed it wonderfully. Well located. You have good garden, this and that. So you get praise from others and that delights you. So that is, the praise is dependent on others. Somebody else comes and criticizes the house, then you will feel very bad about it. So you become, your behavior is controlled by others. Like you buy a dress, you put the dress on and you go to the office. Others come and praise you. Oh, you have a wonderful dress. You have a sense of dressing. Very nice color, very good cut, this and that. Then all that is basically gives you pleasure. But this pleasure is actually dependent on the comments made by others. It is not dependent on you. It is controlled by others. Somebody else comes and he dislikes that dress and makes, you know, somewhat ugly comment, then it also hurts you tremendously. So you become parasrit, you become dependent on others. The pleasant experiences of life, whether, basically they come from the outside objects. They come from your wealth, they come from your residence, they come from your position where you are in, they come from, different comforts that you derive from outside world. The outside world is the source of pleasant experiences. And those pleasant experiences depend on the comments of others. So now others start controlling your life. A good comment by somebody else gives you pleasure, and a bad comment by somebody else gives you the pain. So, firstly, you get into a kind of ritual which is not under your control, which is controlled by others. Your pain and pleasure is controlled by others. So, you become parasrit. That is one. Secondly, it is dual. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So, duality is attached to it. So, that is what prayer is. Prayer is basically being dependent on others for pleasant experiences. And these experiences are basically derived in worldly objects. You acquire wealth, you buy a car, you buy a clothing, you have good house, you have a spouse, you have a child, you have experience of eating outside, traveling abroad, or traveling to other places. All these are actually experiences dependent on outside objects. And the comments of the outside world, what happens these days, this is very, very popular these days. You go to a restaurant, you come back and you put that experience on your Facebook. Then you travel somewhere and you go, and even before traveling, you put the route on the Facebook, and then you go there, you keep putting the photographs every day, expecting comments from others. Now, obviously, people don't give bad comment. They are also little, civilized. They give good comments, and that gives you pleasant experience. So the pleasant experience is firstly from the outside objects in the world. Secondly, dependent entirely on other people, how they comment on it. So you become totally parasrit, you become dependent on others, and that is what the path of prayer is. So everybody has two paths in the life. That is what this mantra says. One path, that is the path of pleasant experiences, which makes you parasrit, and the other path is the path of good deeds, Shreya. Now, Shreya is path of good deeds. That is the path which is actually making you swastrit. You are dependent on your own self. You are not paradhin. You are swadhin. You determine your own happiness, and that is the path of good deeds. So the prayer and Shreya, these two paths, have been described by Yamraj to Nachiketa in the very beginning of this mantra. Now I would like to, give an example to explain it further. Now, anything which is made in nature and which has its own intrinsic capability is basically self-controlled. Like, look at our own self. When we are conceived in the body of our mother, After that, nobody adds our eyes or our hand or our nose or our legs or our ears. They all come from that intrinsic ability which is called consciousness, which automatically brings all these body limbs outside. For example, you make an engine of a car. Now, in the engine of a car, or you make a car, you have to add each part. In there may be 100 parts in the engine, you add each part separately from outside. There may be a gate to the car, there may be a seat in the car, there may be a boot in the car. Now you have to add each one of them from outside. They don't grow inside automatically. So that is they don't have that intrinsic capability. They don't have that consciousness which brings all the things from inside. So whatever is natural, whatever has consciousness, will have that intrinsic capability. A flower you cannot add and make it glow. The flower will come on a plant or a tree on its own. It's that intrinsic capability. The seed you put will bring out a plant, and the plant will have branches, it will have leaves, it will have flowers, it will have fruits. Now, all that is intrinsic, that is inbuilt into that system. Nothing is added from outside. So that intrinsic capability is swastrit. It is based on its own capability. You don't have to add anything from outside. While you make a car or you make a house or you know you make an office or a mall, every brick has to be added from outside. There's nothing swastrit there. That is parasrit completely, everything. So a swastrit person will develop this intrinsic capability which is inside. That inner capability will come out to give him that happiness, to give him that, anand. While a parasrit person will depend on outside help and assistance continuously for getting that pleasant experience. So the prayer, the path of prayer, whoever follows that path will be dependent on outside help all the time, continuously. And the objects outside and the people outside will determine his pleasant and unpleasant experience. While a swastrit person doing good deeds will decide his own happiness, his own anand, his own destiny through intrinsic capabilities which are inherent in each one of the living beings. So this is the difference, and this is what Nachiketa is explaining in the first mantra, that there are two different paths in life. One can take the path of prayer. That path is the path of pleasant experiences based on outside objects, based on outside people, based on the comments made by outside world that makes you parasrit. The other path is the path of Shreya, that is the path of good deeds, which is based on your intrinsic capability, the capability which is inbuilt in your own self. And then you are swasrit, you are not dependent on others, and you can develop that capability to make you eternally happy. So these are the two paths which have been mentioned here. Now, further down, he says in the same mantra that Ad Danashya, that the first path, the path of Shreya, gives you anand, gives you eternal happiness. And the path of prayer gives you hiyate. Hiyate is that brings you down. It takes you, down the drain. The hiyate means basically bhrasht ho jana, to degrade yourself. So that is the path of degradation. So because you are so much dependent on others, so that is the path of degradation, and this is the path of raising one's consciousness upwards. So these are the two paths, and this is the first mantra where we can decide which path we want to adopt in our life, whether we want to be dependent on others, whether we want to be dependent on outside objects for our happiness, or whether we want to be swastrit and we want to be independent on our own self. We can decide what is good and what is happiness for myself. So then he expands it further. So we'll go down now. Shreyascha preyascha manusyate sto संप्रीत्य विविनक्ति धीर श्रेयो ही धीरो अभि प्रेयसो वणीते व्रणीते प्रेयो बंधो योग क्षेमात व्रणीते. Now this is here, two new words have been added, and which are very, very profound words. That Shreya and prayer, both these paths attract human being. Human beings are attracted by both these paths. But a person, dheer, the word has been used, vivinatti dheer, the person who has the capability of being dheer. Dheer is the person who is, dheer comes from stability, from holding together, from integrity. The person who can hold together, the person who can, be integrated, who is not divided into oneself. It's like, vibhakt. Vibhakt means, bhakt means you are dedicated to one thing, that is bhakt. And vibhakt means you are, crumbling inside, this division inside your own self, and therefore you are, fighting one force against another. So dheer person is the one who is bhakt, who has integrity, who has totality of his personality together. It is not divided. There is no duality in his mind. And only when you are dheer, you can do the varan. Varan means completely adopting something. That is varan, to be completely dedicated to one particular cause. So here this word is dheer, that he says that Shreyo hi dhiro abhi prayaso vranite, that the person who has the quality of being dheer, quality of being integrated, quality of being, absolutely integrated once with one own self, or who is not vacillating here and there, that kind of person can follow the path of Shreya. Only that kind of person. So this is a requirement of the following a path of the goodness, that you have to have an integrated, solid personality which is not divided into parts, which gives you total integrity in your own self. Dheer. It is not, into so many elements, and which is causing friction in your mind, which is making you vacillate from one place to another. So, person who has this capability of dheer is able to follow the path of Shreya, of good deeds. We'll analyze this in a little while. The second thing is Preyo Mando Yog Se Mat Vranite. The person who has mand buddhi, we'll explain that what it is. Mand buddhi is the one who follows the path of prayer, pleasant experiences. Now, what is this dheer and what is this mand and what it is, what is the importance of all this? Now, first let us understand mand. A person who has divided personality, a person who wants immediate happiness, the person who is looking for happiness in the outside objects, that is the person called with mand buddhi. Mand buddhi does not mean that you are not intellectually advanced. You are intellectually advanced, but you are not uh, able to take a proper perspective of the situation. You are taking a short-term perspective, a perspective based on the immediate happiness. That yes, this particular, uh, you know, action gives me immediate happiness, and therefore you adopt that path. And that immediate happiness comes from outside objects. And that is why the Upanishad describe that person mand buddhi. Mand buddhi means he is not able to take a proper vision, a proper perspective of the situation, and he wants immediate results. He is expedient. He is looking for some outcome without waiting for any time. That is what is mand buddhi. So the people who have this kind of approach in life, who look for immediate happiness, who look for good comments from outside, who are looking for happiness in worldly objects, they have been described with mand buddhi. The person who have integrated personality, the person who have a larger vision of life, the person who have a long-term vision of life, they have been described as dheer. Dheer means they can wait, they can patiently, do things without being expedient for results. So this is the difference in this. So this mand buddhi and dheer purus, these are two very, very important words which have been used here. We have to see that if we are looking for results immediately in outside objects, then we cannot follow the path of Shreya. Now, this is what Nachiketa proved. Yamraj offered him. He offered him the wealth. He offered him kingdom. He offered him, all the beautiful ladies. He offered him gold. He offered him all the possible animals, all other comforts. But he said, no, I don't want them. Now, temptation of those kind of things are very common. People have that approach that yes, let us take it. Like we saw that in a story of the person who wanted to take his villagers to the goat. And they all got tempted on the way. Some got tempted with the food, some got tempted with the diamonds and other precious metals. Some got tempted with the beautiful ladies, damsels, and like that. And only one or two persons finally accompanied him and reached the goat. So these temptations are there. And the person who takes this temptation has been called the person with mand buddhi. And the person who do not take these temptations, who has a very determined approach to life, who has patience, patience and waiting for the results and thinks long term, is called dheer. And that is what he says, that this kind of person is capable of following the path of Shreya, the path of good deeds, the path of total liberation, the path of independence, the path of developing one's own self and getting happiness from that inner self, not from the outside objects. So, this is the mantra number 2 of this Upanishad. Now, let's go to mantra number 3. Satvam priyan priyarupascha kama nabhidya nachiketo asyastrisi netam sankam vittamayi mavapto yasyam manjati bahavo manushya. Now, Yamraj is telling to Nachiketa, ki, hey Nachiketa, oh Nachiketa, that I offered you all the temptations which could be the objects of pleasant experience for you. I offered you the wealth, I offered you, the kingdom of the world. I offered you all the beautiful ladies, I offered you long life, I offered you all the animals, pasoon, bahun, pasoon. But you did not take them because you have that long-term vision. You have that dheer. You proved that these objects are giving you transient pleasure and they will lead you to unhappiness later on. This is duality, that happiness leads you to unhappiness. Anand does not have opposite in the language in Sanskrit because Anand does not give you the duality. There's no duality associated with Anand. The sun rises and the sun sets. We are born and we are dead. But Anand is one word that has no opposite because it is duality free. And that is why the Paramatma has been called Sat Chit Anand. All three have no duality. Sat is absolutely true all the time. Chit is the consciousness which is unaltered, which is anadi, which is eternal, which does not diminish, does not depreciate. And Anand, again, it is perpetual state of happiness. So this is what Yamraj is telling him, that you were not tempted by any of those offers which I gave you, which proved to me, which told me that you are a good candidate to follow the path of Shreya, to follow the path of good deeds, to follow the path of total liberation. That is what Yamraj is telling him. He told that most of the people, Yasyam manjati bhavo manushya, that most of the people get tempted by these things and they don't follow the path of Shreya. Manjati means first jhana, to get, trapped into the process. Bhava manushya, many people, most of the people. Yasyam manjati bhavo manushya. Most of the people get tempted by these offers and they get trapped. They don't follow the other path. But I have no doubt about you. Netam sankam. I have no doubt about you. Because you have turned down all the offers of, this worldly comfort which I offer to you. And therefore you have proved to be a proper candidate for the path of Shreya and prayer. Shreya rather. So now this Upanishad starts with the path of prayer and Shreya. So we have two paths to follow in life. Everybody has that option. And both paths are attractive. That is what Upanishad's first mantra says, that all the humans are attracted to both the paths. But the path of prayer is based on pleasant experiences from outside worldly objects and comments from people from outside. And therefore, it makes you paradhin, it makes you parasrit, it makes you, slave of outside objects and the comments from outside world. While the other path, which is intrinsic path in your own self, which you can develop in your own self by realizing your own self. Like the body gives you all the limbs automatically. The flower, you know, comes out and starts blooming and comes with fragrance on its own without any outside support. The tree comes out with branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits on its own through intrinsic capability of its own without any assistance from outside. Similarly, the path of Shreya develops your inner capabilities, your inner self, your inner consciousness in such a way that it blooms like a flower outside. It takes you to the path of eternal happiness. Like a flower blooms, you start blooming like a flower. You grow with that inner strength. And that strength is possible only for a person who has dheer, who is dhira, who is, you know, established in himself. He is not looking for outside objects. Now, this path of prayer is for those people who have mand buddhi, whose vision is narrow, and who are looking for quick, pleasant experiences in outside world. So this is the difference between these two paths. In the beginning, he says that while he will continue and he will expand further down on the question or the boon which Nachiketa has asked him, whether there is a soul, if so, what happens to it after the death. So we will come to that question later on, slowly, slowly, when we proceed into this Upanishad. So thank you very much for your attendance today. And we will proceed slowly, slowly. These are very profound mantras. And therefore, I would like to request you that let us meditate on each of these mantras in our own mind, slowly, slowly. And we can find a path which leads us to the path of eternal happiness. Thank you.